Jason Momoa says he cried watching his son act with Zendaya in Dune Part 3. He just killed it. Jason Momoa's 16-year-old son, Nakoa-Wolf Mamoa, will portray the character Leto II Atreides in Dune Part 3 in theaters December 18th, 2026. This has just caused a firestorm of speculation for Dune fans. Having teenage versions of the twins being just outright announced to the public, something quite spoilery, which surprised me. And that also opens the door to all sorts of wild speculation in regards to what is Dune Part 3 adapting? Because there's been so many that have been saying that because it's called Dune Part 3 and not Dune Messiah, well, they must be doing this hybrid Dune Messiah, Children of Dune mashup. And I have been vehemently against that. I think Dune Messiah definitely should be its own film, its own singular story. I'm fine with there being seeds planted for future stories, which is what Denis Villeneuve has said that he would do. So in regards to seeing teenage versions of the twins, I'm not necessarily against. I like the way the miniseries did it. They showed James McAvoy's older, I think he was about, 18 looking in the miniseries. He's probably over 20 years old. But yeah, they showed him throughout that Dune Messiah first episode in the miniseries. And I thought that was done well to portray the visions that Paul was having and just the confusion, seeing these different futures. And I think it could be done well. But what's weird about this now is the fact that Leto II, as a teenager, is supposed to have a scene with Chani. I just don't understand how this will work. So even before then, okay, I get it. They'll be in visions that Paul will see. And at a certain point, especially, I can see him seeing the future in his children towards the end. But at that point, of course, spoilers, at that point, Chani has passed. So what are we doing? This is so confusing to me. Let's see what the article continues to say. Jason Momoa was moved to tears by his son Nakoa-Wolf Mamoa's performance in the upcoming Dune Part 3. Momoa spoke to his experience watching his 16-year-old son, who goes by Wolf, audition for and win a role in the third Dune movie while promoting his Apple TV Plus series Chief of War on the August 11th episode of Jason Bateman, Will Arnett, and Sean Hayes' Smartless podcast. So his comments were, quote, "I'm doing Dune with my son right now," Momoa marveled during the podcast after describing the entire process that led to Nakoa-Wolf's casting in the franchise's next entry. The premiere of Chief of War, we flew to Hawaii. We did the premiere, I think, July 18th. We got on a plane that night. We landed on the 19th. My daughter's 18th was the 20th. We flew out the 21st. We landed in Budapest on the 22nd. He went to work on the 23rd. Is this the audition process? So yeah, he went to work on the 23rd. His first scene, I'm sitting there essing my pants. He's so articulate. He's with Zendaya. He's in it, Momoa said of watching Nakoa-Wolf get to work. And I'm like, my baby, 16 years old, and he just killed it. I'm just crying. I was a effing wreck. I was so proud of him. Outlets like Deadline first reported that Nakoa-Wolf had been cast as the character Leto II, the son of Timothée Chalamet's Paul Atreides and Zendaya's Chani, in the next Dune film back in June. On Smartless, Momoa emphasized that his son has received little to no formal acting training prior to auditioning for the role and said that he only learned Dune Part 3 was casting for that character after he and Nakoa-Wolf sent a self-tape to producer Cale Boiter. I don't understand that. You said you only found out that they were casting for that role after you had already sent in an audition tape to just be whatever role in Dune Part 3. Momoa said on Smartless that Nakoa-Wolf has trained in martial arts for his entire life and acted in school plays. Before Nakoa-Wolf was cast in Dune Part 3, Momoa thought he might just bring his son to the movie's set to gain perspective on the work ethic required to make it as an actor. When co-host Hayes asked how Nakoa-Wolf responded to finally acting on set, Momoa said, "He was like, 'It's so hard, Papa. I have so much respect for you now. I'm just there and I'm watching him and Dune director Denis Villeneuve, who I effing love dearly. He loves Wolf and he's just doing a great job. It's the craziest feeling and I'm like, God dang it, dude. I just didn't want him to do it, but I'm not gonna lie to you, like he's so good. You want your kids to just be better than you. I'm like, this mother effer gonna be like, he's gonna blow me away. He's so god dang present. All right, well, he's definitely a proud father. I mean, obviously, he's going to gush about his son. It is very strange how he said that his son got the role. First of all, he said he would bring his son to set, and then he sent a audition tape to the film's producer. So obviously you wanted some role in there for your son. So he said his first scene that he filmed was with Zendaya, and he said that he just killed it. He's also said he's had no formal acting training except for martial arts training. How are we having scenes with Zendaya? What do you think? So I know people have mentioned the only thing that seems to make sense, but not really when you think about the fact that this is a Dune Messiah adaptation. There is a scene in Children of Dune where Leto II and Ganima essentially are consumed by their other memory as Paul and Chani. Their egos, personalities, they're talking to each other as if they are Paul and Chani. They have this wealth of ego memories within them, and this was an exercise that they were doing. Being preborn, they are subject to being possessed by all of these other memories since they were born, awakened in the womb before they had a chance to form their personalities. They are at risk to being consumed by their genetic ancestors, by their previous, both male and female sides of their ancestry. So there is a scene where they do this often. They become essentially Paul and Chani. Ganima becomes Chani. Leto II becomes Paul. It's a scene that happens deeper into the story of Children of Dune. And I don't think they would go that far in it, even if there is a time jump and even if we do start to explore Children of Dune, which just seems ludicrous to me to try to mash these two books together to do that. I don't know if I can see them doing that in a way that would make sense to the audience. It seems like a very strange sequence and just seems that that's something that Villeneuve hasn't embraced. The very strange and esoteric. We haven't even gotten the full depth of Aaliyah's character and nature. So it's hard for me to think that we're going to go that far into the esoteric when it comes to Leto II and Ganima and them playing with their ego memories like that. But there is a lot of ways that this can go. It still could be a vision. Maybe Paul is seeing his son, Leto II, and Chani in a scene. I can't help but think that it must be a vision. Obviously, if we're true in any way to the events of Dune Messiah, she will have the children. So another way that this can go is that she is already pregnant at the end of Dune Part 2, and then 16 years later, we have the twins, and they are just a part of the narrative of Dune Messiah. But then we're talking like huge, monumental deviation from the story. And honestly, to the point where it would just be unrecognizable. But that would be a real thing if this is a real scene with Leto II and Chani. Like this is actual physical events happening in real time. I think that would be awful because I want to see Dune Messiah. And even though I love the miniseries, the Sci-Fi Channel miniseries, one of the things that I was really expressly looking forward to when it came to Dune Part 3 is something that was solely Dune Messiah. Or at least if there were new elements to be incorporated, what I would have hoped for is elements that were missing from Dune Parts 1 and 2. Especially when it came to Aaliyah Atreides and the relationship with her and her mother and conversations between Jessica and Chani that weren't there. So if we were going to have anything new added into the narrative, that's what I was hoping to see, something that we just didn't get, especially I think for the origin story of Aaliyah, because they did not showcase what really happened to her, what was going on inside the womb, why she is this abomination. They didn't go into any of that. So that's what I was hoping to see expressed. But with the miniseries, because it was a season of television, essentially, they did make a point to incorporate elements of Children of Dune into that first episode that covered the events of Dune Messiah. So Scytale wasn't as much of a head conspirator. He was involved, but it was when Sissa Carino that was in charge from the very beginning. And I wasn't crazy about her portrayal. There was some creative liberties taken there in order for her to have a greater part in the narrative. And they did want to clearly set up things for Children of Dune, and that's why James McAvoy was already there and Paul was seeing him. And I can understand it. It makes sense from a series standpoint, especially if you're covering Dune Messiah and Children of Dune. They wanted it to flow together better. But I was really hoping for, when it came to the films and Denis Villeneuve's films, that Dune Messiah would be solely Dune Messiah, mostly. And that Scytale, for example, would be the chief villain, which he's been described as the chief villain in this film. And we've also heard from Josh Brolin that Gurney Halleck is hardly in it, and that would go again with Dune Messiah's narrative. Maybe we'll see him in a flashback sequence in the beginning and that be it, and that would make sense. But then we have stuff like this where I just don't know how this would portray. I know that they're gonna have to take some liberties with the portrayal of Chani, because where they ended Dune Part 2 is a stark contrast from the novel. So right away they're gonna have to do some work to get Paul and Chani back to the place where they were before. Best case scenario that I think would work is that this is a vision. I think it would just work with the narrative the best. I just want Dune Messiah to be Dune Messiah. And if someone does want to pick up the narrative to continue that, I want whoever director comes in to do Children of Dune, I want them to have that creative freedom to adapt that story without it being tainted by what was done before. So best case scenario, this is a vision, and worst case scenario, it's just a massive deviation from the source material, and that this is a mashup of Messiah and Children of Dune, maybe where Chani lives, maybe she becomes a preacher-like character, head of the conspiracy, rebellion, some nonsense, fan fiction, instead of living up, being faithful to the source material. And for a lot of Dune fans, Messiah is their favorite book out of all of it. I would say they are my top two. Let me know what you think. Do you think that this is a vision? Do you think that we're going to have this mashup of Messiah and Children of Dune? What are you hoping to see? Let me know your thoughts.